The text arrived on a Monday afternoon while I was reviewing case files in my chambers. Dad, Mom and I have been talking. Your brother's boss, Judge Harold Brennan from the Ninth Circuit, is coming to my retirement party Saturday. This is important for Marcus's career. Having you there would raise questions we'd rather not answer. You understand? I stared at the message for a long moment. Marcus, my older brother. Federal prosecutor in the Southern District of New York. Currently working on a major racketeering case under Judge Harold Brennan's supervision. The golden child who'd graduated Harvard Law. Who'd clerked for a Supreme Court justice. Who made my parents beam with pride at every family gathering. I typed back. Understood. No argument. No explanation requested. Just acceptance. 60 seconds later my phone buzzed again. Your father explained about Saturday. It's probably for the best, honey. Judge Brennan is very distinguished. You know how sensitive these judicial people can be about propriety. Marcus, hey. Look, I know the party thing is awkward, but Judge Brennan is super old school about professional image. Dad thinks it's better if we keep it to immediate family and legal colleagues. Hope you get it. I set my phone down and returned to the brief in front of me. United States versus Castellano. Complex RICO case involving construction fraud, money laundering and witness intimidation. Trial started Monday in courtroom 7A. My courtroom. Because I was Judge Sophia Martinez. United States District Court, Southern District of New York. Appointed at 37. One of the youngest federal judges in the country. My family knew I was a lawyer. They knew I worked for the government. They'd stopped asking detailed questions about 8 years ago when I'd stopped trying to explain. Marcus had always been the legal star. Law review at Harvard. Appellate clerkship. Fast-tracked into the U.S. Attorney's office. My parents introduced him as our son, the federal prosecutor, at every opportunity. Me. I was Sophia. She does government legal work too. Something with courts. I'd corrected them once. Told them I'd been appointed to the federal bench. Explained what that meant. Dad had nodded politely. That's nice, honey. Very stable job. Not as exciting as what Marcus does, but someone has to do the paperwork. Mom had added, at least you have good benefits. I'd stopped correcting them after that. What they didn't know, I'd been nominated by the president. Confirmed by the Senate 94-3. Featured in the National Law Journal's 40 Under 40. Invited to speak at Yale Law School's annual judicial conference. I kept it quiet. Not out of shame but out of exhaustion. When you grow up as the overlooked sibling, the one whose achievements never quite measure up, you learn that silence is easier than constantly fighting for recognition. Besides, I liked the work. The law mattered more than my family's opinion of it. And on Thursday the law was going to matter very much indeed. Tuesday morning I reviewed the Castellano case file again. The prosecution team was solid. Lead prosecutor, Marcus Chin. Second chair, Jennifer Okafor, an experienced RICO specialist. Supporting them, 3 junior prosecutors and 2 FBI agents. Marcus had no idea his sister was the presiding judge. Why would he? He knew me as Sophia Chin. I'd taken my mother's maiden name, Martinez, when I'd started practicing law. Professional choice. Clean separation between family and career. My judicial assistant, Patricia, knocked on my chamber door. Judge Martinez? The prosecution team is here for the pretrial conference. Send them in. Marcus walked in first, confident and polished in a navy suit. Behind him, Jennifer and the rest of the team. He was mid-conversation, not looking up. So we'll lead with the financial documentation, then pivot to witness testimony. Judge Martinez has a reputation for running a tight courtroom, so we need to be precise. What reputation is that? I asked from behind my desk. Marcus looked up. His eyes met mine. For exactly 3 seconds he stood frozen. Then his professional mask slipped into place, though I saw the shock underneath. Your Honor. Marcus Chin, Assistant U.S. Attorney for the prosecution. Mr. Chin. Please sit. The team settled around my conference table. Marcus's eyes kept darting to me, trying to reconcile the sister he'd dismissed with the federal judge now controlling his biggest case. I ran the conference with clinical precision. Discussed the trial schedule. Ruled on outstanding motions. Set expectations for courtroom conduct. Mr. Chin, I understand this is a complex RICO case. What's your estimated timeline? 4 to 6 weeks, Your Honor. We have extensive financial records and 18 witnesses. The defense counsel, a sharp woman named Rebecca Torres, spoke up. We anticipate similar, Your Honor. This is a substantial case. Understood. We'll start with jury selection Thursday morning. 9 a.m. sharp. Any conflicts? Everyone shook their heads. Good. Mr. Chin, a word before you go. The team filed out. Marcus remained standing awkwardly by the door. I waited until it closed. You can sit. He sat. You're wondering if this is a conflict of interest, I said. Your Honor, It's not. We're not close. Haven't been for years. I can be impartial. But if you want to motion for recusal, I'll consider it. Marcus shook his head slowly. No. No motion. You're sure? Because once we start, we start. I'm sure. He paused. Sophia, Your Honor, I had no idea you were a federal judge. I know. How long? I was appointed 3 years ago. His face registered genuine shock. 3 years. And you never said anything? I did. At Thanksgiving 2021. Dad changed the subject to your Supreme Court clerkship. Mom asked if my job had good retirement benefits. Marcus winced. I don't remember that. I know. That's why I stopped mentioning it. But a federal judgeship, that's huge. That's Senate confirmation. That's something you would have paid attention to if it had been your achievement, I finished. Marcus, it's fine. I made peace with being invisible a long time ago. You're not invisible. You're a federal judge. To the legal community, yes. To our family, I'm the daughter who does government paperwork. I lean back. Thursday we start trial. In that courtroom, I'm Judge Martinez and you're Mr. Chin. Our personal history is irrelevant. Understood. Understood. And Marcus? Saturday's retirement party. He had the grace to look ashamed. Dad really did say that? Check your family text chain. He was quite clear about me being an embarrassment to judicial company. Jesus, Sophia. It's fine. I'm not coming anyway. I have briefs to review. He stood, hesitated. For what it's worth. I should have paid more attention. Yes, you should have. But you didn't, and we're both fine anyway. See you Thursday, counselor. He left. I sat alone in my chambers, staring at the retirement party invitation that had arrived by mail 2 weeks ago. Please join us in celebrating Thomas Chen's 40 years of service to Franklin and Morrison Accounting. Saturday, November 16th, 7 p.m. University Club. Formal attire. RSVP required. The invitation listed special guests, including Judge Harold Brennan, several senior partners from Marcus's firm, and a state congressman Dad had met through his work. Dad wanted to impress. Show off his successful son. Demonstrate that his 40 years in accounting had produced something meaningful. And I was the embarrassment he needed to hide. I pulled out my phone and texted my law clerk, James. Me. What's Judge Brennan's reputation? James. Ninth Circuit? Old school conservative. Harsh on defendants. Loves prosecutors who are prepared. Why? Me curious. James, he's attending some retirement party Saturday. Heard him mention it to his clerk. I smiled. Of course he was. Thursday morning arrived cold and clear. I put on my black robe, pinned my hair back, and reviewed my notes one final time. The Castellano case was going to be a marathon. Complex financial evidence, multiple defendants, aggressive defense attorneys. I needed to be perfect. At 8:55 a.m., I entered courtroom 7A from my private entrance. The bailiff called, "All rise." The United States District Court for the Southern District of New York is now in session. The Honorable Sophia Martinez presiding. I took my seat at the bench. Please be seated. The courtroom was packed. Media in the gallery. Defendants at the defense table. Marcus and his team at the prosecution table. And in the second row, distinguished and silver-haired, Judge Harold Brennan. I saw Marcus, notice him. Saw his posture straighten. This was his moment. Trying a major case in front of the judge who could shape his career. Good morning, I began. We're here for the matter of United States versus Castellano, case number 24/1847. Mr. Chin, is the government ready to proceed with jury selection? Yes, Your Honor. Miss Torres, is the defense ready? We are, Your Honor. I spent the next 4 hours managing voir dire. Questioned potential jurors. Ruled on challenges for cause. Kept the process moving efficiently. At noon we broke for lunch. I returned to chambers to find Patricia looking stressed. Judge Martinez? Judge Brennan's clerk called. Judge Brennan would like to introduce himself. He's waiting outside. I removed my robe. Send him in. Judge Harold Brennan entered. Imposing, formal, everything Marcus had described. He extended his hand. Judge Martinez. Harold Brennan, Ninth Circuit. I hope I'm not intruding. Not at all, Judge Brennan. Please sit. He settled into the chair Marcus had occupied Tuesday. I'm in town for a retirement celebration and thought I'd observe some trial work. Your courtroom management this morning was excellent. Thank you. That RICO case is substantial. Marcus Chin is a talented prosecutor. I supervised his appellate clerkship years ago. Brilliant legal mind. He's prepared well for this trial. I'm attending his father's retirement party Saturday. Thomas Chin, 40 years in accounting. Marcus speaks highly of his family. I kept my expression neutral. That's kind of you to attend. Thomas is quite proud of Marcus. Understandably so. Brennan paused. I don't believe Marcus has siblings. The question hung in the air. I believe he has a sister, I said carefully. Is she in law as well? She works with courts. Paralegal? Court administrator? Something like that. Brennan nodded. Well, Thomas mentioned wanting to keep Saturday intimate. Mostly legal professionals and close family. I gather the sister isn't attending. Scheduling conflict, perhaps. Perhaps. We talked for another 15 minutes about procedural matters, Ninth Circuit precedents, and trial strategy. Brennan was impressive. Sharp mind, encyclopedic knowledge of case law. As he stood to leave, he said, Judge Martinez, you're doing excellent work here. The bench needs more judges with your precision. How long have you been on the district court? 3 years, Judge Brennan. Presidential appointment? Yes, sir. Senate confirmation must have been quite a process. It was thorough. He smiled. Well, you wear the robe well. I look forward to watching how you handle this trial. After he left, I sat very still. Marcus had told Judge Brennan, the man who could influence his entire career trajectory, that he didn't have siblings. Or that his sister was so irrelevant she wasn't worth mentioning beyond she works with courts. The dismissal shouldn't have hurt. I'd made peace with being overlooked. But this felt different. This was active erasure. I pulled out my phone. Me, James, pull the Senate confirmation hearing transcript from my appointment. I need the opening statement. James, now? Me, yes. 10 minutes later, James delivered a file. I opened it to page 4. Senator Williams, Judge Martinez, your journey to this bench is remarkable. Daughter of immigrants. First-generation college graduate. Yale Law School on a full scholarship. Clerked for Justice Reynolds. Built a distinguished career in the U.S. Attorney's Office before this appointment. Your family must be incredibly proud. Sophia Martinez. Senator, my family has always supported me in their own way. But this achievement is mine. I built it through work, not through family connections. And I'm honored to serve. I remembered that hearing. Remembered sitting alone in the gallery because my family had scheduling conflicts. Marcus had a deposition. Mom and Dad had a pre-planned vacation. Only my mentor, Justice Reynolds, had attended. Had sat in the front row and smiled when the final vote was called. 94-3 confirmation. Presidential appointment. One of the youngest federal judges in the country. And my family still introduced me as Sophia. She does government paperwork. The trial proceeded flawlessly. Marcus presented his case with precision. The financial evidence was damning. 18 shell companies, $47 million in fraudulent transactions, witness intimidation captured on wiretaps. Judge Brennan attended every day, sitting in the gallery taking notes. On Friday afternoon, after a particularly strong cross-examination by Marcus, Brennan approached me during a break. Judge Martinez, remarkable trial management. You keep both sides disciplined. Thank you, Judge Brennan. Marcus Chin is performing brilliantly. His father must be bursting with pride. I'm sure. I'm looking forward to tomorrow's celebration. Thomas has done well. 40 years of steady work and a son who's going to be a major figure in federal prosecution. It sounds like a meaningful celebration. It is. Though I admit I'm curious about something. Yes. The sister Marcus mentioned, the one who works with courts. I asked Thomas about her and he seemed vague. Said she does administrative legal work and is very quiet. Not attending Saturday because she wouldn't fit in with the legal crowd. I said nothing. Brennan continued, it struck me as odd. If she works with courts, you'd think she'd be comfortable around legal professionals. Some people prefer to stay out of the spotlight. True. He studied me carefully. Judge Martinez, forgive the personal question, but are you married? Children? No, sir. Maiden name Martinez? It's my mother's maiden name. I took it professionally. And before that? I met his eyes. Chin. I watched the calculation happen. Watched him connect the dots. His expression shifted from curiosity to shock to something like anger. Sophia Chin, he said quietly. Marcus's sister. Yes. You're the sister who does administrative legal work. That's how they describe me. You're a federal district court judge. Yes, sir. Brennan sat down heavily. How long? 3 years. And your family doesn't know? They know I'm a lawyer who works for the government. They've never asked beyond that. But a federal judgeship, that's presidential appointment. Senate confirmation. That's public record. Which they've never looked up. Marcus doesn't know he's trying a case in front of his own sister? He knows now. I told him Tuesday during pretrial conference. Before that, no. Brennan's face cycled through several emotions. And tomorrow's party, they told you not to come because you'd embarrass them in front of me? In so many words, yes. Because they think you're what, a court clerk? Paralegal? Something like that. They've never been interested enough to ask specifics. Brennan stood, paced my chambers. Sophia, may I call you Sophia? In chambers, yes. This is unconscionable. Your brother has spent the last week telling me about his family's legal legacy. His Harvard degree. His clerkship. His trajectory. He's positioned himself as coming from legal excellence. He's not lying. He is excellent. But he's erased you. Completely. And your parents have enabled it. They see what they want to see. That's not acceptable. Brennan's voice was hard. Sophia, you're one of the most impressive jurists I've seen in years. Your legal reasoning is flawless. Your courtroom presence is commanding. You were confirmed 94-3. Do you understand how rare that is in this political climate? I'm aware. And your family thinks you're filing paperwork? Yes. He shook his head. I'm attending that party tomorrow. And I'm going to tell Thomas Chin exactly who his daughter is. Judge Brennan, that's not necessary. It absolutely is. Marcus has been leveraging my mentorship to build his career. Fine. That's how the system works. But he's done it while pretending his sister doesn't exist professionally. That ends tomorrow. Sir, I don't need you to fight this battle. No. You don't need me to. But I'm going to anyway because this is about more than family dynamics. This is about professional integrity. Marcus presented himself one way. The truth is substantially different. That matters. Saturday evening I stayed home. Wore comfortable clothes. Ordered Thai food. Opened a bottle of good wine. At 7:15 p.m. my phone started buzzing. Marcus, Sophia, what the fuck? Marcus, Brennan just told Dad you're a federal judge. Marcus, everyone is freaking out. Marcus, call me now. I silenced my phone and returned to my dinner. At 8:47 p.m. the buzzing intensified. Dad. Sophia, Judge Brennan says you're a federal district court judge? Is this true? Honey, why didn't you tell us? Judge Brennan is telling everyone you were appointed by the president. Marcus. Dad is having a breakdown. Brennan asked him why his daughter wasn't at the party celebrating legal achievement when she's one of the youngest federal judges in the country. In front of everyone. Dad, we need to talk. This is very embarrassing. I poured more wine. At 9:23 p.m. my phone actually rang. I let it go to voicemail. Then listened to the message. Dad's voice, tight with stress. Sophia, this is very awkward. Judge Brennan is here telling everyone about your appointment. People are asking why we didn't mention it. Why you're not here. Your mother and I don't know what to say. Please call us back so we can understand what's happening. I deleted the message. At 10:04 p.m., a text from an unknown number. Unknown. Judge Martinez, this is Harold Brennan. I hope I haven't overstepped. Your father seemed genuinely shocked to learn about your position. I may have been forceful in my delivery, but watching him brag about Marcus while having no idea his daughter sits on the federal bench was more than I could tolerate. I hope you'll forgive the intrusion. HB. I texted back. Judge Brennan, no apology necessary. You told the truth. What they do with it is their choice. Thank you for your integrity. The rest of Saturday night passed in blessed silence. I finished my wine, watched a documentary, went to bed early. Sunday morning I woke to 17 missed calls and 43 text messages. I made coffee and read through them. Marcus, we need to talk. Like actually talk. Everyone at the party was asking about you. We didn't know what to say. Why didn't you tell us properly? Dad. Judge Brennan showed everyone the article from the National Law Journal. The one about 40 under 40 legal minds. You were in it. Why wouldn't you share that with your family? Marcus. Brennan asked me in front of the entire prosecution team why I didn't mention my sister was the judge on my case. I look like an idiot. I set my phone down and went for a run. When I returned, there was a voicemail from my mother. I listened while stretching. Sophia, honey, we need to understand what happened. Judge Brennan made it sound like we've been neglectful. But you never told us you were a judge. You said you worked for the government in legal work. How are we supposed to know it was this important? Please call us back. People are asking questions and we don't have answers. I deleted it. Around noon my doorbell rang. I checked the security camera. Marcus stood outside holding coffee cups. I opened the door. Those better be grande oat milk lattes, I said. They are. He handed me one. Can I come in? I stepped aside. We sat in my living room. Marcus looked exhausted. That was the worst night of my professional life, he said. I imagine. Brennan cornered Dad right after the toast. Asked him point blank why the guest of honor's daughter, a federal district court judge, wasn't at a party celebrating legal excellence. In front of 50 people. What did Dad say? He said you worked in government legal administration. Brennan asked if government legal administration meant federal judgeship confirmed by the U.S. Senate. Dad said he didn't know what Brennan was talking about. And then Brennan pulled out his phone and showed everyone your Senate confirmation hearing. The National Law Journal profile. Your appointment announcement. Dad's face went completely white. I can imagine. Mom tried to explain that you'd never told them. Brennan asked when the last time was that anyone had asked you about your work. Actually asked, not just made assumptions. Marcus set down his coffee. Sophia, I couldn't answer him. Because I genuinely don't remember ever asking you about your career. You didn't. Why didn't you force the issue? Why didn't you make us pay attention? Because I was tired, Marcus. Tired of fighting for recognition. Tired of having my achievements minimized. It was easier to let you all believe what you wanted to believe and build my life separately. But a federal judgeship is an achievement that should have mattered to you without me having to shove it in your face. The fact that I had to trick Judge Brennan into revealing it just to get your attention proves my point. You didn't trick him. You just told him the truth. After he assumed I was a paralegal. I could have corrected him immediately. I chose not to. Why? Because I wanted to see if anyone would figure it out on their own. If anyone would care enough to look past their assumptions. I met his eyes. You told Brennan you didn't have siblings. Marcus flinched. I didn't. I mentioned you once, but you erased me, Marcus. Actively. You told the man who's mentoring your career that you were an only child or close enough to it. Because acknowledging me would complicate your narrative about being the legal genius in the family. That's not fair. Isn't it? You built your professional identity on being Dad's successful son. The one who made it. Having a sister who's a federal judge would undermine that story. I didn't know you were a federal judge. You didn't know because you never asked. I told you at Thanksgiving 2021. You changed the subject. I mentioned it at Easter 2022. Dad asked if government jobs had good dental insurance. I stopped trying after that. Marcus stood paced. What do you want from me, Sophia? An apology? You've got it. I'm sorry. I'm sorry I didn't pay attention. I'm sorry I let my ego get in the way of knowing my own sister. I don't want an apology. I want you to understand that your success and mine aren't in competition. They never were. But you and Dad and Mom made them competitive. You needed to be the successful one, so I had to be the overlooked one. That was the role assigned to me. So you just left? No. I built a career so substantial that eventually the truth revealed itself. I didn't leave. I just stopped begging you to see me. He sat back down heavily. Brennan ripped into me for 20 minutes after the party ended. In front of Jennifer and half the prosecution team. He said I'd misrepresented my background. That professional integrity meant being honest about family, not just cases. He's right. He also said you're one of the best legal minds he's seen in a decade. That your courtroom management is textbook perfect. That you're going to be one of the most respected judges in the circuit. That's generous of him. Is it true? I'm good at my job, Marcus. Just like you're good at yours. But you're better than good. You're exceptional. And I had no idea. Because you never looked. We sat in silence. Finally Marcus said, the trial. Is it weird for you? Having me in your courtroom? No. In that courtroom you're a prosecutor and I'm a judge. Our family history is irrelevant to the law. Brennan said you could have recused yourself. That most judges would have to avoid the appearance of bias. I considered it. But we're not close enough for there to be actual bias. Recusing would have been the safe choice. But it wasn't the necessary choice. You're going to rule fairly? I'm going to rule according to the law. If your case is strong, you'll win. If the defense presents better arguments, they'll win. That's how courts work. And if I screw up? Then I'll rule against you. Without hesitation. Because in courtroom 7A, you're not my brother. You're an officer of the court who needs to follow procedure. Marcus nodded slowly. I can accept that. Good. He stood to leave, then turned back. For what it's worth. I really am proud of you. I should have said that years ago. You're saying it now. That's something. Is it enough? I don't know yet. Ask me after the trial. The trial continued for another 3 weeks. Marcus presented a masterful case. The defense fought hard, but the evidence was overwhelming. The jury deliberated for 6 hours and returned guilty verdicts on all counts. Judge Brennan attended the verdict reading. Afterward he approached the bench. Judge Martinez, exemplary work. This trial will be studied in law schools. Thank you, Judge Brennan. Your brother performed well. But you maintained perfect control of your courtroom. That's the harder job. I appreciate that. I'm hosting a dinner next month. Federal judges, appellate attorneys, legal scholars. I'd be honored if you'd attend as my guest. I'd like that. He smiled. And Sophia? For what it's worth, I told your father something at that party. I told him that his daughter is going to be remembered in legal history long after his accounting career is forgotten. I don't think he fully understood, but I meant it. After he left, I sat alone in my courtroom. The space was quiet, empty, peaceful. My phone buzzed. Dad, Mom and I would like to take you to dinner. To properly celebrate your appointment. We know we're 3 years late, but better late than never? Please? I stared at the message for a long time. Then typed, next Sunday. 7 p.m. I'll choose the restaurant. Dad will be there. And Sophia? We're sorry. We should have seen you. I sent back a simple, see you Sunday. That Sunday I chose a restaurant 3 blocks from the federal courthouse. The walls were decorated with photos of famous trials, historical legal moments, Supreme Court justices. Mom and Dad arrived early, nervous. Marcus came too at my invitation. We sat, ordered, made small talk that felt stilted and strange. Finally Dad said, Sophia, we owe you more than just an apology. You owe me the truth. Do you actually want to know about my career? Or do you want to feel better about missing it? Mom winced. That's harsh. It's honest. I'm not interested in performative guilt. If you're here because Judge Brennan embarrassed you, we can end this dinner now. But if you're genuinely curious about who I am and what I've built, then I'm willing to share. Dad took a breath. I want to know. Really know. Not because Brennan shamed me, though he did. But because I spent 40 years building a career and I just realized I have no idea what my daughter built in half that time. So I told them. About Yale Law School on a full scholarship. About clerking for Justice Reynolds. About my years as a federal prosecutor, trying cases that put away white-collar criminals and corrupt officials. About my nomination, my confirmation hearing, my appointment. About the cases I'd overseen. The legal precedents I'd set. The respect I'd earned from colleagues. Marcus listened quietly. At one point he said, "Sophia, the Castellano case, it's going to be cited for years. Your jury instructions were perfect. My whole team has been studying them." Good. That's how the law gets better. We learn from each other. Mom asked about my day-to-day life. What it felt like to wear the robe. How I made decisions. For the first time and maybe ever, they asked real questions. And I gave real answers. The dinner lasted 3 hours. At the end, walking out, Dad stopped me. "I told everyone at work about you this week." Showed them the National Law Journal article. The Senate confirmation coverage. "I've been bragging about you for days." "That's nice, Dad. I know it doesn't make up for missing it the first time. But I want you to know, I'm proud of you. So incredibly proud. Thank you. Can we do this again? Regular dinners. Where we actually talk." "I'd like that." Marcus walked me to my car. "Brennan called me into his office Friday. He's recommending me for a special task force. Major securities fraud case. He said working in your courtroom showed him I could handle high-pressure situations with integrity." "That's wonderful, Marcus." He also said that if I ever misrepresent my family again, he'll personally tank my career. He's very protective of you. I smiled. Judge Brennan believes in honesty. I respect that about him. So do I. Marcus paused. "Sophia, I'm going to do better. At being your brother. Seeing you. I can't change the past, but I can change what happens next. That's all I'm asking." 6 months later, I was invited to speak at the Federal Judicial Conference. Topic: Maintaining impartiality in complex family dynamics. I accepted. My family attended, all of them. Sat in the front row. Listened as I explained how I'd navigated trying my own brother's case. How I'd separated personal history from professional duty. After the speech, a young law student approached me. "Judge Martinez, that was incredible. How did you stay so calm when your family didn't recognize your achievement?" I thought about the question. About the years of silence. The quiet building. The moment when Judge Brennan forced the truth into light. I stayed calm because I knew something my family didn't. Success doesn't require an audience. It requires work. And eventually, if you do the work well enough, the truth reveals itself. But what if they'd never found out? Then I'd still be a federal judge doing work that matters. Their recognition is nice. But it's not what makes the work valuable. The student nodded thoughtfully and walked away. Dad approached, eyes red. "That speech. Sophia, I had no idea how much we hurt you. You didn't mean to. You just didn't see me. But now you do." "How we do," he agreed. "And we're not looking away again." Marcus joined us. "Judge Brennan is here. He wants to say hello." I spotted Brennan across the room, distinguished and proud. He'd become a mentor, a friend, an ally. He'd also become the catalyst that forced my family to see me. Not through my own demands, but through the simple act of telling the truth to people who'd built their worldview on assumptions. "Judge Martinez." Brennan smiled. "Excellent speech. You're going to inspire a generation of jurists. Thank you for being here. I wouldn't miss it. You know, I've been telling this story at every judicial conference I attend. About the young prosecutor who tried a case in front of his own sister without knowing it. About the family who assumed their daughter was filing paperwork when she was actually shaping federal law. To what end? To remind people that competence doesn't announce itself. That sometimes the most extraordinary people in our lives are hiding in plain sight, waiting for someone to actually look. I glanced at my family, Dad, Mom, Marcus, all watching me with something that looked like wonder. "They're looking now," I said. "Yes," Brennan agreed. "They are. But Sophia, they're looking because I forced them to. What happens when you force people to see you instead of letting them discover you on their own? They resent it. Or they learn from it. Time will tell which. My money's on learning. Your family isn't cruel. They're just self-absorbed. Big difference. Is it? Yes. Cruel people can't change. Self-absorbed people can learn to look outward. Especially when the cost of not looking is losing someone extraordinary. That night after the conference ended, I sat in my chambers and thought about Brennan's words. My family hadn't seen me because I hadn't forced them to look. I'd accepted their narrative, built my life around it, and waited for reality to eventually intervene. And it had. Not through my actions, but through a chance encounter with someone who understood what federal judicial appointments actually meant. Was that the right way to handle it? Or should I have fought harder, demanded recognition, refused to be overlooked? I didn't have an answer. But I had what I'd built, a career that mattered. A reputation that preceded me. A body of work that would outlast any family dinner conversation. And now, finally, I had a family that saw me for who I actually was. Not because I'd begged them to look, but because someone else had held up a mirror and forced them to recognize what they'd been missing all along. Judge Harold Brennan thought I'd be remembered in legal history. My family thought I'd embarrassed them at a retirement party. The truth was somewhere in between. I was Sofia Martinez, federal judge, building a legacy one case at a time. And whether my family witnessed it or not, the work mattered. Though I had to admit, it was better with witnesses.